Yo, how's everybody doing? I hope folks are doing well. Um, Give folks a little bit of time to get in this thing. Let me know if y'all can hear me. But I'm outside, so that's why the picture is just blown out. It's just a blown out picture. I'd have to do some blocking or whatever. But anyway, man, welcome to another virtual happy hour. I hope people are doing okay. I hope are taking care of themselves. That people's all right, man. I know this is a rough time for people. Um, but yeah, man, it's I think it's tough for a lot of folks. So, just to check in on some stuff, I'm in the process of writing my second book. And, I've been working on it for a minute. It's called, Crack Baby Residue. And it kind of is different from the first book, where the first book was much more academic because it was my research. This is like the stories of like that residue. In the first book, I talk about this thing. I coined this phrase called the Black Achievement Trauma Tax. And basically, just for those that hadn't read it, what it is there's a tax for folks, normally Black people, but folks that grew up basically in squalor, right? Poor, dealing with a lot of stuff. But then when those people navigate to actually get to high levels of success, there's a social emotional tax that they pay, right? Like, think of it as like if you've ever seen Mike Tyson give an interview or do his one man show, where he was so good at that one thing that he did, right? But like it broke along the way, and now he does a bunch of talks about it, and he's actually really entertaining, man. I'm a big fan. Um, but hey Jamila, how you doing? Um, but yeah, so basically, what this book is gonna be a much more popular version than what the first one was, and it's gonna have stories in it. So I was trying to, early this morning I did my little workout or whatever, and I was just thinking about just some of those stories, right? Like, I mean, I love these stories, right? These are stories that made me who I am, right? So there's one when I was like really young, man. I was living at the Henry Robinson. The Henry Robinson is it's this place in downtown Oakland. It's like a transitional housing shelter type of deal, right? And in it, it's a yo. I like this frame. I haven't seen this chair is just like it's killing me. I don't know why it's just hanging like that. Let's put you down. It's bothering me. Um, but there was this place, the Henry Robinson, right? And so because like it was a bunch of kids living there and like homeless or whatever, we would get to do like these things, and we get to go. Like it was these white folks that lived in like somewhere like Walnut Creek or something. It was somewhere nice, man. I don't remember. And as a kid, man, I was a timid kid, right? Like I've always been timid, right? Like I've always not really one that wants to fight, like not really one that wants to like be out doing a whole bunch, like not really with the shit like that. Trying to stay out of trouble, right? Like I remember visiting like my parents in jail, and I don't know if I thought that I would end up in jail if I just wasn't always like well behaved, or I don't know what it was, right? But very timid dude. And I just say that because we went, and it was this kid, man. He just kept bothering me. He used to bother me at the spot that we lived in. He always had something to say, and I used to just like ignore it, right? But we went and we like chilling at these like white folks' house, and these white folks they had video games, man. They had like a ton of food. Like I don't know what the thing is with food, but it was like almost set up almost like a buffet, right? And it was like you can just eat anything, right? And yeah, it was they had like this candy. I had never had saltwater taffy up until that point. So like I had the taffy. Oh, and Jamila says she can't wait to implement something. Absolutely. That's mine. Well, anytime you need me, yo. So like eating this food, we doing all this stuff, we having a good time, like watching movies, playing video games. Like I don't know what put on these folks' heart, right? Like in this beautiful house to just have a bunch of like poor black kids come and like run around and like mess up their shit. Like, I don't know what that was or why that happened, right? But I'm grateful. It was a cool experience. And the kid came and he started talking, man. He started talking. And like, I'm just really trying to like vibe, watch people play the game. I'm trying to like eat all this food. Like, the food was amazing, right? It was just really good. And he just kept pushing me. And I don't know, I just grabbed something and I slapped the shit out of him. Like, it was like, again, I'm not a violent person. You know what I'm saying? Like, but he just kept bothering me, man. He kept like just messing with me. And I think he knew that I wouldn't really try to, that's not the world that I was trying to like, I wasn't trying to get into it with him. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I hit him, and then I hit him again. And I think I hit him with something, to make a longer story short, because I've already been talking for a while, like, that was the last time. Like, I think that was the last. We messed it up for everybody. It was like a bunch of kids that could have benefited from that. I feel bad about it. Like, there's a bunch of kids that probably could have benefited from that. I just know we never got invited back. Me and that little boy. We had to be like 11. We was like really young, man. But I mean, you know that people say like moving furniture? Like, we really like was moving furniture. Somebody said, what did you hit him with? So I know I hit him with my fist, and I just grabbed whatever was next to me. I remember like when I was younger, like living in Kentucky, and I got into it with somebody, and my dad was just like, you just pick up something and swing it. He's like, you little, you tiny, you should just pick up something to swing it. And so I remembered that in that moment, and I swung the hell out of it. I don't like violence, yo. I really don't. I did not have a whole bunch of fights. I kind of like avoided those things. But as I'm thinking about these stories that I'm gonna put in this book, right around like, the residue of this stuff, it's just one of those things that's just really interesting to me. I remember that story though, because I mean, that kid was just as messed up as I was, right? Like, but we was just being kids, but you still can't mess up somebody's house. So here's the lesson that I'm going to take from that as I look at how things are right now, right? I'm about to tie this into everything that's happening, because I was reflecting on this, like I said, during my little workout this morning. And there's a few different lessons. One, it don't matter how much people like you or how much they put out for you. Like, if you mess up or threaten a livelihood, they're not going to invite you back. I watched on social media yesterday, I think there was like a sideshow that happened during this time, right? And not just stuff in Oakland. I mean, this is in Oakland because I live here and I know about it. But it's happening in a whole bunch of different places. And I get that people don't like being told what to do. I get people don't like being told they got to stay in their house or whatever the case is. I get that there's a lot of people that's young and don't and know that, that this thing is attacking people with compromised systems and older people. But when you like, when folks is trying to say, look, here's a here's a shelter in place thing here, like this is what we asking you to do, and then you just go out and you move furniture in that house, you kind of asking for people to I don't want to see martial law. I think that just with the information that I know and what I understand about this thing, and that the apex isn't even here yet, where people are like getting ready to turn down folks in the hospitals, and as we're about to see a lot of people die. I don't want to see folks on the street. I don't want to see soldiers or officers on the street with guns telling me I can go to and fro. So look, go do what you got to do. Go work out. Go follow the rules that's kind of set out there. Got to go get food. You got to do stuff like that, man. But you can't just throw a party outside. Like you can't do it. You will not be invited back. And what not being invited back means in this context is that people going to do what they need to do to protect their city. And I just don't want to knock up that tree. The other thing is you got to stop. Like, people like to bully the quiet folks or the folks that's like risk averse, right? 50 Cent is one of my favorite rappers, and he talked about how he grew up, and one of the things that he said, they asked him why he fought so much. You know, he was a Golden Gloves winning fighter. He was a boxer, amongst other things. But they asked him why he fought so much, how he learned how to fight, and he said, you know, when you outside, the person that's looking to not fight is always the one that got to end up in the fight. So it wasn't that I wasn't fighting more than anybody else. You know, this is 50 Cent talking. I just started the few, you know, that need to be started, and then people left me alone. I say that to say, like, right now, as we look at these schools, as we look at people not having a place to go, as we look at, you know, it's a new normal that's coming, right? I'm still talking to Black people because that's what I am, and this is who I talk to. This exists Black folks for a long time. Tell somebody what type of school they got to go to, penalize them when they don't want to go to that school, and then not teach them when they get there. It's so many people that's graduating from school, not being able to read. Is sad. You know, there was another part in the book where one of the subjects talked about being inner city smart. The term, what inner city smart is where I went to Emory High. I left my senior year, but I still had like a 3.7, 3.8 GPA, right? I was in the top of the class. I was tracked. I was in this thing called the academy. And then I got to college. And in college, I was remedial everything. That's inner city smart. That is, the bar is so low at the school that I go to that even as one of the top performers, right? Like clear one of the top, right? When I got there with mixed company and like people that went to other schools and had different types of money and different races and whatever the case is, like I was so behind. I took remedial everything for a full year. I had to pay for 2 extra classes, 3 semesters, because it was on a quarter system at the time, that I had to pay for those classes because the schools that I went to didn't prepare me. When I say, like, you got to stop trying to bully the folks that's trying to work with you, that's trying to avoid the conflict, that's trying to get along, that's trying to make a way, I'm thinking about Black folks in this moment. When we come out of this situation, things will be forever different. They will be forever changed, especially education. Hey, I mean, I don't know if you would. I didn't know you was in classes, but that's what you say. But I'm very, very happy for your success now. When this is over, schooling is going to look different. And as Black people, you are starting to see what's possible, right? Because here's the thing. You know, when America catches a cold, Black folks catch the flu. But now it's about to work in reverse, right? Because see, when this was a situation that was just plaguing Black folks, right? When it was just Black people dying from crime, or Black people dying from like crack, or Black people dying from like, you know, what's going on with like sickle or like Ebola in like Africa. The world didn't stop. It didn't go to a screeching halt, right? But next us, we have a sickness, an ailment that is like brought us together because there are people in the power structure that's getting sick. So we got to figure some stuff out. But what we're learning is that there are a bunch of other ways to educate your kid. And I don't think that everything's going to be all virtual, but I also don't think that relying solely on that school that you got your kid in by itself, if you Black, it's not going to be enough. Hey, Brianna, how you doing? It ain't going to be enough. What I mean by that is Black people moving forward. Pick whatever school you want to pick for your kid. I don't care if you're picking a district school, a traditional district school, a charter school, a private school, homeschool, and virtual. I really don't. That's your business. That's your family. That's your kid. And I'd be damned if I tell you to throw and thrust your baby into a system that has never served us well. Right. But now we got some contingency. Right. So like when this goes back and your kid can go back to school, what are the other apparatus? Like what are the other platforms that you're going to utilize at home to make sure that that gap is filled from what it is that your kid is getting. You understand what I'm saying? Like you like there will be, what I'm thinking is, you pick the best school that you pick, and you're going to have to fight regardless of what school you pick, right? It's going to be something or another, right? Like anywhere you go. None of these things are perfect, and I don't expect schools to be perfect. I do expect them to do their job and educate kids, but that's a whole different rant. But let's say you pick a school that's just great in math, and you pick and that school is great in math, but it ain't so great at teaching Black kids about where they come from. It ain't so great at teaching Black kids about what Black people bitch in math, but it ain't teaching you that we originated math, like in Egypt, right? Like maybe, but now that we see that there's other options, right? Send them to that school and get what they need. But at home, get you some online learning, get you your community. Like, you gotta put things in place outside of these systems, because these systems by themselves don't care about your kid, man. I need you to understand how this stuff works, right? Like, school systems are not just about schools and kids. Most of the time, whatever city you live in many cities across the country, the school district is one of the largest economic centers of that place. What does that mean? OUSD in Oakland is a top 3 employer of Oakland residents. Okay, a top 3 employer in Oakland. I think Kaiser is first. I think OUSD is second. And there's many places across the country where that's the case, where the school district is the largest employer, right? The school district is a way into middle class for a lot of people, right? The way that those districts make money is based off if your child shows up to those schools, right? Your child is the commerce that is being traded upon to make sure that this economic system stands and doesn't collapse. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not trying to get super deep, right? But it's not just about your innocent people, and there's a lot of people inside those buildings that love kids, right? And I don't think that any districts are good money, they're good quality, right? But what we're seeing now is, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whether it's food services, right? Things are not gonna go back. They're not. And you either adapt or you die. Here's the thing though, right? We've already been dying. See, here's one thing, and I wasn't trying to come down on my people. I would never do that. But some of y'all are let me get on the flip side of this, right? Because a lot of people are tripping at a lot of Black folks not worried, or they don't seem as worried in the same way. And I don't speak for everybody. Black folks are not a monolith, all that stuff. I know it's somebody that's scoping what I'm saying so they can correct me, right? But the reason why a lot of Black folks not as worried in the same way that some of our non-Black friends are far more, right? And they still happen. I just decided at one point that I'm just not going after one of my friends passed away. I grew up in a place that's very different now, but I lived in a place where life was not something that was promised, right? So when you put the numbers out about the percentage of people that's dying, the percentage of people that's getting sick, and the odds and all that stuff, there's Black folks that's been my whole life been a struggle. My whole life been worried about this. You think Corona is going to be the thing that's going to take my joy, right? Now, that's not an excuse to be stupid. It's not an excuse to go out there. What I'm trying to just express to you, right, is that many of us have lived in this kind of world of, I had best friends that were children and were killed as children, right? So, and we learned how to live through that, right? So when I talk about crack baby residue, you are seeing the remnants of crack baby residue. And when I say that, I'm not saying that I was a crack baby per se. I'm talking about a generation of Black kids like me in Detroit, in Oakland, Chicago, New York, right? That have grown up under the most dire circumstances, and many of them came out super successful. But we grew up in such a dysfunctional, jacked up place. It's not dysfunctional, jacked up to us per se, because we lived in it, that your normal is not my normal. You understand what I'm saying? Your normal is not my normal. So I told this story, and I'll just share it here. It'll be in the book still. Let me get to some of y'all's comments though. Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate you with the comment. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Bree. Appreciate you. Thank you, Jamila. Wait. Jessica with the two of them, y'all mean? So here's the story, right? So I've done well in like social work, I've done well in healthcare, and I've done well in education. And people will say to me in education, because I'll speak up at like a board meeting or in a meeting or something, and people be like, "You so brave," right? And I just be like, "Nah, not really. Like I'm not brave at all." And they asked me how that was, and I remember, me and my dad got an interesting relationship. I love that dude. We don't always agree on stuff, but I remember being a lot younger when I was like starting my career, and I think I was nervous about something. I think it was when I was a social worker, and I was like one of the youngest social workers ever in the agency. And he was like, "What you stressing out over?" And I'm like, "Man, it's this big thing coming up." And he was just like, "Well, can they beat your ass?" I was like, "What? Like they gonna do something to you?" Like, no. He's like, "What you worried about?" Like, and that's been some of the best advice that I ever got, right? Because even in that dysfunction that we all grew up in, that my dad raised me in, right? And like that he had to survive himself, like physical harm was like is a real reality where I come from, right? Like I remember being younger, living in the Fruitvale, and these cats, like, I don't know, my dad had some beef with some cats, man. They like kicked down our door and like jumped my pops in front of us, right? So when I get to a board meeting and it's just like some white folks from the hills that's complaining about, a charter school or whatever the case is, or trying to tell black people where to send their kids and yelling and shouting, yeah, I'm gonna speak up, because what they gonna do? They're not gonna beat my ass. I fought for like a different type of freedom. You know what I'm saying? I fought for like freedom is what I'm here for, yo. Like I want agency, and that means agency over my body. That means agency over where my kids go to school. That means agency over the type of neighborhood I live in. And that means that when you're not doing right by my community, then I'll speak up. And if you can yell and shout all you want, but you're not going to do nothing. And I'm not a tough guy, So it was just interesting as I was writing these stories, you know what I'm saying? And like, and here's the last thing, and I'm gonna draw this out some more. I'm using this as like a way to get these thoughts out there, so I can like, this is my process when I'm writing a chapter. So like, I don't want to lose that point. Yeah, I work in an industry, man, where there's a lot of arguing and fighting, right? It's a lot of wars. It's a lot of like cyber banging. It's a lot of shutting down board meetings. It's a lot of like Twitter campaigns, and you can just tell, right? Like I've been punched in. I didn't like it. It's not so, but I got punched because I was being disrespectful. And this is a lesson that you learn early in life. And then I show up in some of these spaces, and you can just tell who has never been punched in their face. Let me tell you what I mean by that. What I mean by that is there are people I saw a white person call a black friend of mine that is an education leader that is like leading one of the largest education publications in the country, right? And a white dude posted that he was an Uncle Tom because they had different views on what education should be for black kids. Mind you, my friend is the father of many black children. He's a great dad, right? And I was just infuriated because I don't like calling out names. I don't do that back and forth stuff because I respect people. If I call out your name, we're no longer talking about education. We're no longer having like a civil discussion, or an argument. I'm with the arguments, baby. I was a debater and I was good. I won a lot, right? I can do that. I can use these words. You feel me? But like when you call me an Uncle Tom, do you understand like the roots of what calling somebody a Tom is? And as a white person to do that? Check this out. I told him, I said, Chris, bro, I said, listen, I don't get in your stuff. You grown. You know what I mean? You don't need me to do a whole bunch of, I ain't about to blow it all for this, right? But like if I see that guy, we're not having a conversation about education no more. We're not having a conversation about what you think and how you disagree with me, right? Like you disrespecting me as a man to my core, and you use that is just restricted for you to use, right? Calling a black dude a Tom or a Sambo or something like that, especially if you're not black, it ain't quite at calling me a nigga, but it's like if niggas here, you like right here, buddy. And I ain't trying to have a beer summit with you. I'm not trying to like hear more from your perspective at that point, because you have taken the modicum of respect in a time where we got black kids and brown kids and poor kids getting terrible, terrible education in the richest place, in the richest state, in the richest country, you know what I'm saying, in the history of the planet at this moment. Even in a recession, right? We live in California. I'm outside in the middle of, it's still winter. I'm on a balcony. I'm a few blocks from the lake. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of y'all got to check yourself, man. And I know that we live in this Twitter social media universe where you get to sit behind a keyboard and you get to put things in with no level of like recourse, right? I had a friend last year, man, a really good friend of mine that does great education work, white dude that I love, man, like looked out for me. And people like marched on his house. And he handled it with such grace. I don't even understand that. Like, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. Do you understand? Like, I am going to jail. And this is what you need to understand with somebody like me. Again, I am a square. Everybody that's on this thing that has known me, grown up with me, I've always been a square. I've always done my homework. I stay out of trouble. You know what I'm saying? I don't like fighting. It has to be super dire circumstances, right? And I'm black and I'm somewhat successful in this space. So I'm already paranoid that some white person gonna take all this shit away from me anyway. So if I already think that it's gonna all be taken away from me, I'd rather go out and lose it all on my own terms. Don't be the person that I lose my whole like livelihood to. Because if I do, if it gets to that point, I'm coming. It's going to be a real problem. And all we trying to do is educate kids. For kids that go to schools that they parents chose for them to go to, where they made a choice, but nobody put a gun in their head and made them go to. Y'all killing me, man. Y'all killing me out here. But in closing, I'll say this, right? Because there's a lot of people that do this work. And there's a lot of people where I'm inflammatory and they don't like me, right? It's like that dude got a big mouth, and that's cool, right? I can have a big mouth. Just call me Dr. Big Mouth. I don't make my real friends or black people call me doctor, but if you got some shit to say, that's cool. Just call me Dr. Big Mouth. Whatever you call me, put doctor in front of it and make sure that the check comes on time. But here's what I'm gonna say to you, right? If you can't deal with, I was a 3.7 student. I was a student athlete. I had scholarships. I debated and won, right? I won the entire Bay Area Urban Debate League the first year of its existence, right? I did 3 perfect rounds. If I am too hood for you, if I am too loud for you, if I scare you, you not real, and you say you in this work for equity, and you say you in this work to serve black, brown, and poor kids, you say you want to deal with like traumatized young people, but you scared of me? You ain't ready. You not ready. You not as equitable as you think you are. You probably not as good as your craft as you think you are. And a lot of stuff you're doing it to make yourself feel good, which is why we get to the place where a kid like me can have a 3-point whatever and go to college and be remedial everything and make me the bad guy when I call it out. But check this out. I'm not my friends. I'm not that mild man or white man that I was just telling you about, whom I love, right? Like I'm not well adjusted yet to having modicums of success because I'm not really there. In my mind, I'm still that same broke kid, right? That's still broken and trying to like understand what that means and writing books and doing research on me. Kids, I'm doing a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Never do research on yourself, right? You're not supposed to do that, right? You need another doctor to diagnose that, right? So what that tells me, if you ain't built for me, you ain't built for this. And I'm going to keep coming on this education stuff. And ain't nothing you can do to stop me. And then when y'all do pull it out, because I'm not no angel, I don't want to be nobody's hero. I don't believe in heroes and villains. I believe in people. And sometimes that person does good shit and sometimes they do bad shit. And I've done both. I don't answer to the woke police. My goal was to make something out of myself so my grandmother could be proud. And she is dead, been dead for a long time. I have conversations with her. And when I go to Chicago, I tend to get a car and I drive to Kentucky and I go have full-fledged conversations at her gravesite. I have done everything on my list that I said that I wanted to do. Everything. Right? Everything on that list that I said I wanted to do, except I do this year want to spend some time. I want to give talks overseas. I've done it all over the country. This year and next year, I want to do it overseas. But what I'm saying is stop trying to bully people that you think is quiet, that you think are respectful, just because they're not bothering you and you think that they're an easy target. Because furniture will end up being moved. I appreciate y'all, man, for joining this. And let me go ahead and get to the rest of these comments. Jamila said these other folks need to speak up. Jessica said, I didn't know you were, it's a BAUDL, I think, Bay Area Urban Debate League. Yes, I won the first one ever. 3 perfect rounds. They made me go to the summer camp. My parents and my history teacher, Mr. Davis, and my basketball coach conspired. And they told me I couldn't play basketball if I didn't debate because I was always getting kicked out of Davis's class. I love Davis. He might be watching this. And they made me do it. I went to the first camp ever at UC Davis. I took 15th place with my partner. We took them medals and we chucked them shit. We threw that. I didn't want no damn 15th place. I don't care if it was 200 kids. Came back, got a new partner, and I pitched 3 perfect rounds. I don't know if that's happened since or whatnot. I'm sure it has. And then I never did it again because I won. I went back to playing basketball. So yes, Maya said, hang in there, Cole. You are still a king. Oh, I'm not sad or nothing. I'm not mad. Like, I'm just making a statement because I think there's a lot of people that just say a lot of stuff and don't know who they're talking to. Brianna says, this is common in the world. Who are those folks, though? Call them out. I need to know. I mean, it ain't that. I mean, look, it ain't that big, but it's just in the point. It's not as much as it's people to call out. It is a system of folks just feeling like in this new era, they can just say whatever they want because social media has made people feel like that. Let's see. Oh, we got a bunch of messages. Renee said they not ready at all. I agree. When they end up in classrooms with our kids, it's a disservice to our babies. I didn't know we was talking today, Jamila, but we can work that out. Hit me. I can get us some time. Thank you for being proud of me. I'm proud of you as well. I'm getting to the comments. I'm getting there now. I'm getting there, Jamila. You know what I mean? And thank you, Maya. I appreciate you. If y'all don't know, Maya is superintendent of American, well, it's a new name now. I don't want to mess the name up, so I'll let her put it in the comments. But she's amazing, and she's always just super supportive of me, just always. Like, she just prays for me, just randomly. It's just great. She's just one of them people. I love her, and so Miss Woods, you should definitely put in your information just in case some people on here want to come and volunteer or help out with your school and stuff. So again, I'm not saying, so all this was around, this is just my process when I'm writing a book and writing these chapters. You know, there's a bunch of other stories that kind of, they're funny, right? They're serious, but they're funny. They have some funny elements to it. Like there's a chapter where I'm going to tell a story about how I realized that my parents was on drugs, right? It's a very funny story. I mean, it's tragic, but it's fine because they're good now. But the way I learned about it, it's a funny story. I wish that the Dave Chappelle show was still around and that I was a writer because I would definitely write this as a skit. So that'll be in there. Maybe I'll share it on here or whatnot. But I appreciate you all. Hopefully y'all enjoyed. our, you know, our little virtual happy hour, our virtual happy brunch. And I appreciate y'all. Maya has put her information down there. Go check out the website. Go check out her school. She's actually educating a lot of people, and I'm really, really proud of her. In a city that does not do the best job of educating its people, and partially why the people of this city are changing so rapidly. So I'm gonna stop running my mouth. I appreciate y'all. You can hit me on Twitter. You can hit me here. I know this is a lot of different platforms that's watching this together. And peace. And let me know if y'all like the outside stuff. I know it was blown out and you couldn't really see me or whatnot, and it's not my usual mic. So sorry if the production quality wasn't quite where it normally is. But I appreciate y'all for rocking with me, man. Y'all have a good one. Peace. God bless.